Hello again. We are back for yet another one, and there is a good reason for it, I promise. So the last video I did about a week or so ago was a Teeling the Brabazon 3 at about $155. So naturally the questions that I received after that were, is it worth the money? Or is my money better spent? And I do believe it's worth the money. However, it's still a reasonable question to ask, and I think a very easy question for me to answer, because there is one whiskey that is absolutely a standout. It is an almost perfect whiskey for me, and at the price point of $150 or more, depending on where you find it at, but it's definitely out there at that price. Then Glenfarclas, 21-year-old. I think it is absolutely unbeatable at that price point. If there is anything out there that anyone believes is better, then drop it in the comments, because I would absolutely love to be able to try it, just to put it up against it and see how it goes. So it is a sherry cask, Oloroso sherry cask, matured for 21 years, made up of first fill, refill. I believe they go through to fourth fill, stand to be corrected, but as I said, first fill and refill Oloroso sherry cask that make this up. 43% natural colour, no chill filtration. What you see is what you get. You know, what you see is a very understated tube. So what I will do is, I've had it many times before. I've never really spent the time with it to sit down and break it down, but I really enjoy it. It's one of my daily drinkers, along with the 15-year-old. I will always try to have both, or one or the other, open at any given time. So what I will do is go through nose and taste and try to explain to you why I believe it is absolutely unbeatable at the mark, and very worth every single penny, and worth trying if you haven't done so before. If you have, then you know what it's all about. I've given it about 5-10 minutes. I expect it'll develop a little bit as I go through, but immediately, you know, it's that nice sweetness that comes through, and some fruits. So, you know, your plums, your dried fruits, such as your sultanas and prunes, that almost even go through to a fruit cake. There's some soft spice that comes through, and if I had to break it down, I would probably call the spice a peppercorn, a pink peppercorn, which I know technically is not it's a berry, so but it's not as pungent as black pepper or punchy as white pepper. There's that sweetness there, which is why I say pink peppercorn to go to that extent, and sweetness comes straight back out on top of that, and it is red apple, underripe red apple, some nuts and toffee. So if you really want to, you could call it an underripe red toffee apple. And for me, excuse me, what I get in terms of the smell comes through very much on taste as well, in terms of the lovely sweetness that comes through. Once again, similar sort of fruits in terms of the dried fruits that come through. The spice is there. I'm also getting a little bit of vanilla. I'd almost call it a vanilla ice cream, to be quite honest. And then on the back of that, there is, I know it's unpeated, but there's a little bit like a waft of smoke that kind of rolls over, which is lovely. And I would call this one of the most balanced whiskies in terms of an accessible, you know, official bottling. I would call it one of the better balanced whiskies out there. That's why I said almost perfect for me. I'm a really big fan, as you can probably tell. And there is a word that I never really use to describe whiskey. The word is smooth, but I really think it applies to this whiskey. I really think it is smooth. Lovely mouth coat, the feel, it just kind of, it keeps on going. It's very, very balanced. I think everything works harmoniously. that's why I would call it smooth in that sense, which, as I said, I never really used to describe any whiskey. And now, even when I go back to it on the nose, sort of 5 minutes later, I get a little bit of orange that comes through and a little bit more of that, the vanilla, but the orange is definitely there. Trying to find that orange in taste as well with one more sip, and it comes through on the finish. So in terms of taste, I pick up a little bit more of that sweetness there. I call it vanilla ice cream that I get, along with the spice that is just there, you know, from, you know, the first smell through to taste, even through to the finish. Soft spice, once again, with that sweetness that I described earlier, and there is some citrus on the finish now that I didn't pick up earlier, and the citrus is almost in between a lemon and an orange. It's not a grapefruit, it's not anything like that. It's almost in between a lemon and orange, a little bit sweeter, so you can call it orange if you really want to, and that's almost getting a little bit sweeter as it goes. It's really, really lovely. And the finish is, I'd call it medium to long. So hopefully that quick wrap up gives you a bit of an overview as to why I would call it one of my favourite whiskies, and at the price point, absolutely unbeatable. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, but in terms of packaging, you know, it's not very fancy, so it's not as if, you know, the marketing team is pumping a lot of money into fancy packaging, unless you go to the 30 or 40-year-old Glenfarclas, which is very, very, very tasty, and, you know, you're paying a higher price point, but it looks great. Whereas, you know, with this up through to the current 25-year-old, the packaging is very traditional in that tube, I guess you could call it. So I'd like to think that the dollars are going into the whiskey, which is very, very lovely. So hopefully that answers questions as to, is my money better spent, and, you know, what is your choice or best pick at that price point. I like it very much. I would absolutely recommend it if you haven't tried it. As I said, if you have, hopefully you like it too. If there's anything better out there, as I mentioned, please tell me so, because I'd absolutely like to try it, just to put it up out of curiosity at a head-to-head. But that's it from me. So appreciate the time you've taken to watch the video once again very much. Hope you have something lovely in your glass tonight that you're enjoying, and I hope you stay safe. Thanks once again.